Welcome to the Friends of Fantasy Benefits Baseball Podcast. I'm Justin Mason, lead fantasy writer and analyst of friendsoffantasybenefits.com. Joining me on this episode is DAve McDonald. How you doing, my friend?
That's me. Yeah. We're coming up on 4 a.m. and I'm awake, sort of.
Yeah, we're going to combine these two episodes into one just because it's getting late for you, getting late for me, and I've got a big day tomorrow. So we're gonna kind of skip the FAB talk for this week and try to figure out a better time to fit that in next week. But we will talk a little bit of strategy here and then kind of catch up on where everybody is at in the Earth leagues, because we have a shocker, an absolute shocker in terms of the standings right now. But we'll get to that. That's a little teaser for later. Want to remind everybody you can follow Dave on Twitter at RunDMCD.
Add that D.
You can follow me on all social media platforms at Justin Mason FWFB. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Justin Mason FWFB and the Twitch, so that way you can catch live streams, especially if you're up late on a Monday night. And then of course, give us a rating and review. It really helps us out. Oh, speaking of which, I totally forgot. I need to give away a free T-shirt. So I'm going to go to our profile, and I'm going to pick a random review. And Joe G, you are the winner of a free T-shirt from RotoWare.
That's my boy.
Yeah, he's been a loyal listener for a while. So jump into my DMs on Twitter, and I will hook you up with a free T-shirt.
Also, just want to say, Joe G is like, there's a few people that I converse with on Twitter who are just really, really really smart guys or girls who aren't like industry people, but like you can tell he's a really good player. Like every question he asks are questions that I ask, and he's just a really intelligent guy, and like conversing with him, it's like conversing with an equal. It's not like, conversing with someone who is just trying to ask me questions but doesn't know what's going on. He's a smart guy.
Yeah. All right, let's so we're going to talk strategy first. We got about 6 weeks left in the season. We're getting to the wire. There's different ways to kind of manage down the stretch, and I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit on how you try to close out leagues. But first, let's start with a question we got from Twitter, and this was from Tim at Tebow45. He asked you what your thought process was when you have a mid-tier starting pitcher, and he used Jose Barrios as his example, but also three of the opposing hitters he's going to be facing. Do you bench the SP? Do you bench the hitters? Do you start them all? How do you approach that?
Yeah, and so I didn't answer this because it's kind of long-winded. Like, it's not something I can type out on Twitter or that I want to type out on Twitter, but it's a good question. But basically, I don't put any bias into who I have on my team. I look at it objectively, like, okay, is this pitcher a good start? Are these hitters a good start? Like, I might not like thinking about the fact that these hitters are a good start against the pitcher that I have going, but that's how I'm going to look at it. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to look at these two things individually, and maybe that pitcher is still a good start, and maybe the hitters are a good start too. Like, you can go both ways. I'm really detaching myself from the situation of, I'm not looking at it as I'm like friendly fire kind of thing. Like, okay, well, if these guys do well, then I don't want to be starting that pitcher. But if the pitcher does well, I don't want to be starting those hitters. I'm evaluating it objectively, separately, looking at the pitcher, looking at the matchup, looking at, how the pitcher versus that team's hitters, how have those hitters been doing lately? What is the talent level there? Does my pitcher struggle versus lefties or righties? Do they have a lot of lefties or righties on that team? Is it home, away? Is it in Coors? Is it in Great American Ballpark? Or on the other side, is it in Seattle? Is it in Baltimore? Kansas City? I'm looking at all those things individually and then making up my mind. I'm not really paying attention to, I guess this is kind of like the equivalent of like stacking or like anti-stacking in fantasy football, right? Like in fantasy football, you kind of want to have players from the same team be together. But in fantasy baseball, you kind of want the opposite. You don't want your hitters to be going against your pitchers. But it's really it's also one game, like I'm assuming he's asking me about the whole week. So your hitters might be facing your pitcher, but that's only one game in the whole week. It's in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's really that big of an issue.
Does your answer change at all when you're talking about like your Yahoo leagues, which are daily moves?
Yeah, I mean, again, if I think that my hitters are in a good situation, then I probably don't want to start that pitcher, and vice versa. If I think my pitcher's really good in that situation, I probably don't want to start the hitters. But when he says middling, like I don't really want to sit good hitters versus a middling pitcher, right? Mm-hmm. Now, do I sit that pitcher? It just depends on what the matchup is. Like it's dependent on a lot of factors. If it's, we talked about Barrios earlier. Well, if it's Barrios in Cincinnati and I've got Cincy hitters, I don't want to start Barrios in Cincinnati whether I have those hitters or not. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm looking at it individually aside from whether I have those hitters or not.
I think for me, like one of the benefits to having a ton of teams, which means a ton of different players across all these teams, is I'm able to detach really easily. So like part of my process when I am like setting my lineup for the week, especially late in the season, which is why I think this is so applicable to what we're going to be talking about anyways in this episode, is I've got my lineup page, and then on a split screen I have my standings, and I'm going through each individual team is lineup, starting with hitters and then going to pitchers, and I'm looking at what my standings need, like where can I improve, and I'm putting the best possible hitters for those standings into the lineup. And then I go to pitching, I do the same exact thing, right? Like, hey, I really need strikeouts. Okay, like looking at my schedule, like what are the guys that are giving me strikeouts, or I really need wins, or I really need ratio help. Like I'm really trying to detach from the overall makeup, except for how it fits together. So I hope that answers his question to the best of our ability, but that's kind of how we do it.
Yeah, I think we answered it the best we could. I've always had an easy time detaching from the stuff. Yeah. Like I don't think of things subjectively or personally or how it affects me. I want to look at it as objectively as possible, and that's always what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk more about kind of how we're managing down the stretch. 6 weeks left in the season. Fab is, how you're going to improve or hurt your team the most, I think, here. Obviously, lineup setting really, really important as well. But how much Fab do you want down the stretch?
I was going to say, I'm glad you didn't ask me how much Fab do I have down the stretch, because that's always a bad question to ask me, because the answer is not enough. At this point in the season, I want to have something around like, I would say in the vicinity of $70 in that range, something like that. That's like my ideal. I mean, ideally you have more than that, of course, but in Glarf, I've got a lot of league mates who are throwing down like $200 bids with backup bids of like $7. So, you've waited too long.
Yeah.
If you're throwing down $200 bids at this point in the season, you've officially waited too long to spend your money. You want to be in the middle. You don't want to be me. You don't want to spend your money too much too early, but you don't want to be, these people who wait until mid-August to spend all their money, because by now it's probably too late. I mean, if you have a lot of money left and you're in first place, Godspeed. Like, things have gone right for you. But for the most part, you want to have used that money to bolster your team along the way. And it's just, there's not enough time left to make a monster difference that money could have made earlier.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like I've got, I think like one or two leagues where like I still have like $150+. And those are leagues I'm not winning right now, or I'm not in second or third place. It's because I haven't been aggressive enough during Fab that I probably am in a position where I'm like in fifth or sixth place, as opposed to like really like cementing myself in the money. I tend to want to have, going into the last month of the season, I want to have $50 or around there. I want the ability to either spread my money over the last 4 weeks and be able to make, at least $10 worth of bids, or be able to pick up a crap ton of guys for $1 or $2. And so, you know, there's some leagues where I've got that, and then there's other leagues where I've got like $30 heading into the last few weeks, and I'm gonna have to.
And to be fair, I think the $30-$40 at this point could still be fine, and it depends on your league too. It's like you said, it's the number of bullets that you have left. If you have those $1 bids, could be so valuable. Like, you don't need to have $70 left at this point to still be okay. I don't have $70 anywhere, so. But $30-$40, I think you can still be okay at this point.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, you know, you just want to be smart. I think you need to be really cognizant about how much other people have in your league and who is spending money and who is not. Because, like, for instance, like, I've got a main event league where there's 2 teams with over $200 left. Well, guess what? They're not spending money. Like, they've pretty much given up. Whereas, like, even though I only have, like, I think $37 or $38 left, that's like tied for the 4th most in the league. Like, I'm going to be fine with that amount.
Then that's plenty. That's more than enough, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like I almost have
it's all relative.
Yeah, exactly. So just be very cognizant of what the rest of your league has on top of what you have, right? And be smart about, like, how you're going to use that. You know, This is a really good time. If you haven't been doing it or tracking it all season, is go through previous week's FAB bidding, you know, especially the last couple weeks, and see, like, how much people are bidding, because people tend to repeat the same bid amounts, right? So if someone is continuously bidding $7, well, it seems likely that they're going to bid $7 next week, right?
You think that's the thing? I switch up how I bid.
I switch up how I bid too, but I think a lot of people tend to bid the same amounts, especially towards the end. You know, they tend to bid the same amounts over and over and over again, right? Okay. So just, you know, take a look and see if you see a pattern. Then that's likely the, you know, you see a pattern over the last 2 or 3 weeks, then maybe that pattern will continue. All right, then the next question is, what are the best ways to stream down the stretch? Is it better to start a bad starter or a good reliever?
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not a bad idea to stream relievers, but it depends on your situation. Like, if you're still chasing, and I mean, you can find some relievers that can give you Ks. Especially with these bulk relievers now, but if you're chasing wins, that's tough to do while starting, you know, non-closing relievers. It just depends on your situation, though. Like, if you don't need saves, then you should be, you know, streaming really good relievers, whether they give you saves or not. But if you need saves, you probably need to be streaming guys who can get you potential saves. And if you need wins, you need to be streaming guys who can get you potential wins. That's really my answer. Is, like, I think you can be okay streaming relievers here and there, but generally that's not where I go first. I look for streamers, you know, even if they're somewhat risky, unless my ratios, like, unless I'm like, okay, I cannot afford to fuck with these ratios, I have to just take a reliever. That's the only time that I'll do that over a potential starter, even if it's a little on the risky side.
I think it like you said, I think it really depends on what your situation is in, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, for instance, like, and I think this is, again, a reason why you should be spreadsheeting things out to the best of your ability. Because if you are spreadsheeting things out, or shoot, go make a spreadsheet now, like, see how much, like, 8 earned runs in 2 innings, like, affects your whip or affects your ERA, and, like, see, like, hey, can I afford to stream, you know, make a really risky stream? Because if you can't, then it might be better to, you know, stream Sean Manaea, right? Like, Sean Manaea has been really, really good kind of in a bullpen role. Look for the next Nick Pivetta type guy that, you know, isn't, you know, been a starter before, but is now in the bullpen and has been electric, right? You know, look for those guys like, you know, JP France, who got dropped from the rotation and might have an opportunity to get back in. I think, you know, sometimes, and I made this mistake this last week, right? I streamed Yanni Chirinos thinking, hey, he's got 2 really easy matchups, a really fantastic offense behind him. I've got a chance to get 2 wins. Well, I didn't get 2 wins. I got shellacked twice. And so avoiding those kind of situations is, sometimes the right decision. But then there's also going to be times like, hey, there's a reason why I did that. I need wins, and because there's a bunch of people who've got around the same amount of win totals, and 2 wins would have been huge for me this last week. Would I have rather, taken 1 bad start as opposed to 2? Yeah, but I took the gamble. Sometimes it pays off, and sometimes it doesn't. But I think streaming, especially if you need ratio help, I think people forget, and Todd Zola's done some great work over at Masters Ball and RotoWire on this. Ratios still move at this time of year. Just because, we've already done 4.5 months doesn't mean that over the course of the next 6 weeks that ratios can't move a fair amount. Because remember, ratios are the only category where someone can come back to you, right? Or you can go back to someone. So
yep.
They move a little bit more than I think people tend to give them credit.
Some of these relievers have reminded us of this lately, as we've seen blow-ups from Carlos Hernandez today, Clay Holmes yesterday, Carlos Estevez a little bit before that. I mean, so how many blow-ups from closers and non-closers that we thought were closers have we seen in the last week? Like, these can really move the needle. These, 4, 5, 6 earned runs in like less than an inning, that moves the needle.
Yeah. I mean, almost had a scary moment with Felix Bautista on Monday where he walked the first 2 guys that he faced. And I was like, oh no, this is going to be really bad. Luckily got a double play ball to get out of the inning and register the save. But I mean, you want to be as careful as you can be, even though you're taking shots. Right. And so I know for me personally, and I was part of a streaming pitching panel a few years back over at First Pitch Arizona with Michael Simeone and Derek Hardy. And all 3 of us in our research found that the best thing to do when streaming is to attack matchups. Matchups are key. Obviously you want to get the best pitcher possible, but matchups are the most important thing. So just make sure when you are streaming, you're streaming good matchups.
I think it's a fine line to walk. I think the matchups are extremely important, but sometimes a pitcher, Yanni Chirinos, is so bad that it doesn't matter how good the matchups are.
I know. Yeah.
You kind of got to walk that line of the pitcher has to be at a certain talent level for me to even consider them to begin with. So I won't even consider guys below a certain point. I don't care what the matchup is.
How are you managing kind of things with 6-man rotations popping up, guys being skipped and dropped out of rotations and off days? We've got, this week is a really good example of a week where we had 6 teams who were only playing 5 games and not as many teams who had 7 games. So how are you managing your teams based on the schedule and these 6-man rotations that are popping up?
I mean, you're trying your best to keep up on all the information is really what it comes down to. I try to follow all the right people. I try to on Twitter, and I try to make sure I keep up on everything that I can. I do searches on as many of my players that I have any kind of question mark on. Going before I set my lineups for Monday, I'm Twitter searching guys, and I'm looking to see is there any news on them? And what I'm also doing is I'm going to Fangraphs probable pitchers. They don't get everything right, but they get a lot right. And sometimes I'll go in there and I'll see something that's different. So for everybody out there who you probably know, I do my own pitching schedules as I go over these every week with you. But sometimes if I see a difference between me and Fangraphs' probable pitchers, I'll do Twitter searches to look for, okay, why is there a difference here? Why do they have this guy going this day and I have him going this day? They didn't get the Stroman news like I did, so they didn't know that he was supposed to go Wednesday. But there was other things that the Fangraphs probable pitchers had on that I didn't that were correct. So I'm just looking for sources that I can trust And then I'm trying to confirm that. And I'm looking online on Twitter and trying to see from the beat writers and from the team, what are they saying? What's going on with these guys? Because I'm trying to I search everybody, and I want to have the most up-to-date information, because that's all we can do is, shit can happen in the middle of a week and there's nothing you can do about it. They can announce this guy's gone on the IL on a Monday and you've already got your lineup set before that. As we saw Matt's, the news came out beforehand, but a lot of times the news comes out after they've already played their game and you don't have any choice. So all you can do is make the best decisions you can in the moment and hope it works out.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You gotta stay on top of things. I mean, and it can be really, really frustrating, but like I clear my schedule a few hours before lock and make sure that I'm, checking everything and seeing who's starting. I mean, every plate appearance, every inning counts right now. And the people who grind this out and aren't sucked in by fantasy football or, getting sick last week and taking a nap when the whole lineup lock fiasco happens, like it did to me.
I was gonna say, are you referencing someone's? That's a very specific reference there.
That's what happened to me. I got sick last week, and so I took a nap before lineup lock and missed out.
I felt so bad. I had no idea you didn't know. Like, had I known, I would have told you. But I just assumed you knew.
Yeah, no, I passed out. I was so sick.
Now, did anybody try to tell you? Like, did you have any messages from anyone or no? Okay.
No, I saw the email when you and I were talking like a couple hours later. So
nobody likes Justin. I mean, really what it comes down to is you need to have friends. I mean, I had several people telling me that was a thing. So, if Justin weren't so unlikable, maybe it wouldn't be an issue.
I've heard for years I need friends, but just don't have time for them. So anything else we should be paying attention to as the season starts to wind down, but we're still going full bore?
The main thing that I'm telling people right now is your focus is on the now. You're now at the point where when a pitcher gets hurt, he's probably a drop. Like you cannot be stashing guys unless that they're supposed to come back within like a week or two. And even then, only certain guys, like only guys who can make a big impact and stuff like that, and who probably won't have setbacks. Like you need to be worried about right now, and you cannot be worried about name value. I don't give a shit about name value. Like I don't care if someone was a 3rd round pick. If they're not producing and you're looking at their underlying stats and there's nothing there, just ditch them. Fine. You need to get production now. Guys who are giving you everyday plate appearances, pitching who you know what to expect from them. This is gold at this time of the year. You're looking for guys are going to come out of nowhere right now. You're going to see guys. There's going to be a lot of guys like I don't know who's going to come out. Like we'll find out. Could be like Velasquez. Could be like Jake Kalou. Could be Luke and Baker. We'll see. But you need to be constantly keeping up with these teams' lineups and everything. Guys are going to get demoted. Guys are going to get called up, especially when we get into September. A lot of guys are going to get called up. You need to figure out which teams are going to be playing guys steadily and which ones are going to be kind of, as we get into September, the teams that have nothing to play for, either because they've got it locked up, like the Dodgers, like the Braves, or the teams that have nothing to play for, they might not have consistent lineups. They might be giving random guys playing times. You want to start looking ahead to which teams have something to play for. The teams that are fighting for a wild card spot or still fighting for their division title, those are the teams that you're going to know what to expect. And this is more of like a last 2 to 3 weeks kind of thing, but we're getting close to that point already. Like we're only 3 weeks away from that point. You just need to kind of start looking ahead, game out the rest of the season. Look at if everything goes according to plan, who are my starting pitchers going to face? Which weeks am I going to need other starting pitchers? Are my hitters, do they only have 5 games some weeks? Where am I going to have holes? Now that we're towards the end, you can kind of, I know it's a lot of work, but there's only like 6 weeks left. This is the time where you need to buckle down. Like you said, spreadsheet it out. Get a spreadsheet. Get on Excel. Make a spreadsheet of all your players, who they're supposed to play against. Look at who's potentially out there, who's playing a lot, who's hot. This stuff all matters the most right now. Current production over potential future production all day. You need the guys who are going to help you now. I don't care about bad drops at this point in the season, because if I drop someone and they end up being good for like 2 weeks at the end of the year, I don't care. Like, I need production now, and I need those roster spots. That's my focus right now.
And you can always grab those guys again, right? Like I had to make 2 really tough cuts. I dropped both Nestor Cortez and Joe Musgroves, who were my first 2 starting pitchers I drafted in my main event. Because I need guys who are going to produce for me right now. Otherwise, I was going to be stuck making really bad decisions in terms of who I was going to be starting, over the course of the next few weeks, and I just wasn't willing to do that. If Musgrove ends up like going out on a rehab assignment and, hey, he's going to do 2 rehab assignments and going, I can go pick him back up. I can bid on him, but I needed the production. So like, it's okay to make those kind of cuts. The worst thing you can do is hamstring yourself every week in the meantime. All right. I think that was a good little primer, and we'll do another one of these primers as we get into the last couple weeks of the season, as we start to really focus on what's going on there. Let's talk about the Earth leagues. We'll start with the leagues in general. Glarf still in first place.
Yes, sir. We will always be in first place, my friend.
Yeah, we'll see about that. So far, you guys are doing pretty well, though, and you guys are still in first place with DARF in second and SLARF in last. SLARF, what is going on there?
Yeah, I talked to Nate Markham about it a little bit. There's definitely some people who are not holding up their end, and it is frustrating because I want this to be, and I know that no league is going to be perfect when it comes to people participating, but I really thought, because like, you're playing for a charity, and by not trying, you're actively harming the rest of your league. Like, I know that for you it's a little different because BARF has been around for so long. You don't want to cut people off who've been in for years and all that stuff. But at the same time, like, do you really want people in your league who are not trying? Like, they're not spending fab. There's people who have like $700 of fab left right now. It's like, obviously they're not trying. Yeah. It's really, because it's my baby, it's frustrating for me to see that. And I had 2 people in my league who weren't trying for a while. So I got on them about it, and I said, look, I love you, but if you don't start trying, I will have to replace you, because for a little while, Glarf was on a little bit of a downturn because 2 of our players were not doing fab. Now, they were saying their lineup, but they were like, well, I've got other stuff going on and all that. I'm like, look, I get it, but I need you guys I need you to do this. Like, I just, you can leave if you want after this year, but I need you to try for right now. And they both were like, okay, we hear you. And they both started trying at that point. So at that point, Glarf started going back up again. And that's what it comes down to. Is I know these are tough conversations to have with people. Nobody wants to be like, hey, I noticed you're not doing anything lately. I need you to do something. But this is literally one of the tenets of this league. You have to be active. And I think we have to start enforcing that more.
Yeah. I know there's going to be a couple cuts in my league next year based on a couple people who are just not participating to the level that they should be. And it's been hurting BARF. What also is hurting BARF, though, is the fact that we have nobody in the top 10 in the overall, whereas Glarf has 3 people in the top 10.
Boom!
Which is really, really impressive. Dustin McComas is still in first. Ryan Island still in second. Tom Rodriguez.
But my boy is in fourth.
Tom Rodriguez, he moved out of third. Sorry. Ryan Bloomfield of WERF moved into third. Jake Halusker in fourth place.
Jake,
very, very nice.
Fucking Halusker. This motherfucker, the last 2 years, didn't finish above 10th place in Glarf. Didn't say shit about it all year. This year, he can't stop talking about it because now he's in the top 5. But hey, I love it. I love that kid, and I love that he's finally coming through for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I believe in him.
He's got an outside shot of getting into the top spot. Dustin McComas has had just a pretty amazing year. That being said, Ryan Ireland right behind him. Yeah,
Ryan's on his tail. Ryan's only 24 spots behind him.
Mm-hmm. 24 points behind him. And I mean, even Ryan Bloomfield, he's been hot the last few weeks. He's jumped up quite a few spots. Yeah. So it's gonna be a race, and I know that Dustin McComas, he has had a pretty fantastic season overall. I know he's been competing in a couple other overalls as well. So good luck to all of them. Here's the shocker. Here's the main headline.
All right, before we get into this, I just gotta give a shout out to my other boys, Matty Davis, Matty Wood, 7th overall, and Marty Tallman.
You stole from us.
Listen, when people move, that's what happens. I don't know what to tell you.
I want an investigation. I feel like you guys bought him a house in Chicago just so he would be in.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely what happened.
We never got Derek Van Riper because I believe he moved back to Wisconsin.
Listen. You need to commission a little bit better. I don't know what to tell you.
We got a trade and then never actually got the player retired on us.
I do whatever it takes to win at all costs.
Yeah,
and that's all that matters, man.
$150 league, but you spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to get Matty Davis a house in Chicago.
Yeah, I don't even have a fucking house of my own, but apparently I'm buying Matty Wood a fucking house in Chicago. But yeah, that's 3 in the top 8. Not only top 10, but top 8. Also, shout out to my guy Greg Sharon. I don't know what the competition is over there in SLARF right now, but he is in 10th overall. Greg is a guy I'm also in a fantasy football league with. He used to not like me. We used to not get along, but
shocked face.
I mean, honestly, though, of people who actually get to know me, I don't think, other than your boy Paul, he doesn't really know me, though. Nobody who gets to know me doesn't like me. It's really just people see tweets from 3 years ago and they get, triggered. I'm like, okay, whatever. So anyways, Greg Sharon, congrats on getting in the top 10. Happy to see it. Now you can go ahead and bash me.
Yeah, no, because we need to talk about where you're at.
It's been ugly
in Glarf and in Earth as a whole. You are currently, are you last place in Glarf? Is that what's going on? I can't see your league standing.
Yeah, let me look. Hold
on. But you are 159th out of 165 in the overall.
Yeah.
Truly, truly embarrassing.
It really, dude. You're telling me I don't even know if I've finished in the bottom half of a NFBC league since I don't even know when. It's been a long time. Beyond embarrassing. I mean, everything I try to do goes wrong. It's you draft early, shit goes wrong. I get that, but oh my God, it's been insane. You pick up guys, they get hurt, and nothing works out. It's just been, I don't know. It's been crazy. No, so there is one team below me. I am in 14th out of 15. Okay. But it is absolutely embarrassing. I mean, I should have been a repeat champion. I barely missed on it last year, but to go from, I understand not winning a third time, but to go from that to 14th is
Yeah, pretty embarrassing.
It is.
I am currently 94th overall in my or in the overall. I'm in 10th place in my league, but I've been as high as 6th in the last week. So like the middle pack, like the difference between me and in 6th place right now is like 6.5 points. So
well, dude, the last time we did this, I think I had just passed you. So think about that.
Well, I have been grinding quite a bit. My team is an absolute disaster, and I think the fact that I'm even involved at all in this league at this point is just a testament to how much I've been grinding. I mean, legitimately, and I lost Steven Matz again. So like it's like, I mean, at this point, like I literally have like pitchers like Jake Irvin on my roster. Like it's that bad. Like it's
holy shit.
Been really, really
the fact that team is beating me is really just embarrassing.
Yeah, it is super embarrassing.
It is beyond embarrassing. Yeah. It's been bad, man. Just everybody's been hurt. Everybody's, but I mean, and I will say that the bar to be good in Glarf is the highest in Earth, but there's no excuse for me being where I am. Like there's none. There's no excuse for me being outside the top 5, honestly. Like that's just, it's fucking terrible. It really is.
Yeah, I'm sad for you. I mean, not that sad, but
yeah, I was gonna say, are you really though? Because I feel like you're kind of happy about it, low key.
I'm super happy about it. This is awesome. It's
amazing. That's what I thought. Yep.
That's gonna wrap us up for this episode. Dave, remind everybody where you can reach on social media and plug all your work.
Yep. At RunDMCD on Twitter and rotosource.com for pitching schedules. There you go.
And you can reach me on all of my social media platforms, Justin Mason FWFB. Email me the show, friendswithfantasybenefits@gmail.com. And let's see, I'm writing daily at Fangraphs and 3 times a week at Fantasy Pros. That will wrap us up for this episode. For Dave and myself, thank you for listening. Have a fantastic baseball season.